So these are just a few words on behalf of, not officially, but from the point of view of our organisation, which obviously has put on this event today and has done a few such things in the past and will hopefully do a few more things in the important time ahead of us. And it's a way we wanted to segue into some thoughts about practical agendas, what is to be done in specific terms. What are we trying to do as a group in specific terms, and what do we need to think about in terms of how we're going to win? Just a quick word in response to our panellists, and it was actually quite moving to hear the power of what they had to say and the force of it, and that one is hearing things that haven't been said in public in the same way. It was one of our wishes in this meeting and in past ones to change, to move the window a bit in terms of what can be said, to give spaces to people to speak out who need to speak out, and they've certainly taken that opportunity today. We didn't, of course, ask them to make political statements. We asked them to speak as arts people, business people, research people, about how it is for them, what Brexit means for them in factual terms as a business. And they've obviously been politically quite eloquent while stating those bald facts to us, because they're very powerful facts. So that's been instructive and actually quite powerful, and I think that power is something that needs to be mobilised again and again with different constituencies. Clearly, the health sector came to speak for us previously, the research sector came to speak for us previously. We have to keep that effort to open up the spaces, to give voice to people. Glad that we had the Oxford Mail and Times with us tonight. Glad we had the BBC interviewing people with us tonight. That's a sign that things are opening up a bit, maybe. I'm going to make a working assumption here, and this is really the assumption that we are working on as a group, and the other 150 groups like us that now exist up and down the country, which we liaise with. And that is that here in Oxford, and increasingly across more and more areas of the country, there is a growing majority in favour of the view that Parliament should and must allow the people to have the final word on any Brexit deal or any no-deal Brexit that our government may propose. And when we say a final word, we mean, of course, one which includes the right to say no to Brexit. Okay, that's the basic proposition, the basic working assumption. Now, those of us who take this view have got clearly to mount a very big push in the near future to ensure, firstly, we get this vote, and that includes Saturday, 2 weeks on Saturday, the 20th, to have 1 million people in London to demonstrate quite clearly to government that the people want to have their say. Besides the march, we've got to work on changing the minds of more of our MPs. You've heard that issue illustrated, and changing the minds of more of our fellow citizens. So everything we've been doing in that way for 2 years has got to be done more and more, again and again, and on a bigger scale and faster. But in addition to that, I think we've got to think about two other things that one would like to put on the table very quickly. It's not going to be enough to get a people's vote. We have to be in a position to win it when we get it. Okay, and that's not being discussed that much at the moment, and not enough possibly at the moment. Firstly, and that's something that has come up in conversations with tens of our fellow groups around the country, is the need to prepare the messages that you can win with. What are the messages that you need to use in a campaign to fight and to succeed? Just a few very quick thoughts on that, and then to another practical point where, if there's time, maybe the councillors can come back and comment. This time around, we're going to have to forget about all that Project Fear. You've got to be tough on Brexit, and you've got to be tough on the Brexiters, a hell of a lot tougher than one was. And goodness sake, we've got enough ammunition now to do that. Secondly, we've got to have the courage of our convictions and make the solid case for the EU as a good thing and a good idea, and for EU membership as something which is much better for us as a country to keep than to lose. We have to make that case too. Now, these things seem to be unnecessary, but they're not enough. And here comes the challenge, I think. No change is certainly better than disastrous change, but the public appetite for change has not gone away. If you offer a no-change option, as you did before, you still have a slight problem. So Andrew Adonis and Will Hutton, I believe, are right in their books Saving Britain, to say that the case for continued EU membership needs to come with a positive offer for change in the UK, which must be offered as part of the Remain package. And we have to think about what that is going to consist of. That was something that some speakers, I think, rightly mentioned earlier. We have to explain this is a package you get on condition that we turn aside from the prospect of indefinite austerity and economic self-harm, which Brexit will inflict. If you want proper change, you don't do Brexit. But we have to also to be clear the package is going to be about squarely addressing the key evils, being tough on the causes of Brexit, the key evils that many people who voted leave were voting against, as people have said earlier, austerity, regional deprivation and decline, and ever more extreme inequality. The ills which they were told Brexit will cure, we know in reality it only aggravates. I'd like to suggest that building a basic consensus among pro-Remain forces about what that offer or that package should try to address is something very important for our coming discussions here, for example. And Will Hutton himself, I know, would have been very glad to have been with us today. We'd maybe better get him to join us soon so we can have that conversation. So that's one thing that we need to do some work on, not alone with our community nationally, but we have to work on it. The other one, I think, is a very big one, which is to build the campaigning capability which can take these messages to the country and win. And that, it means bringing, for a start, all the pro-European, pro-Remain groups that we have, which is not inconsiderable now, together with a coalition of the willing in the political parties and the trade unions, plus a vast range of other citizens groups, constituencies in civil society and local, last but not least, local government. That's where I'd like really to turn the question back, if we have time, to our friends on the Council and say, can we together begin to see a path from where we are now? I mean, we have a Council which passed a vote, a very powerful vote, for the people's vote. Here in Oxford, with that advantage, can we see a path towards building a really strong, unified remaining campaigning capability in the Oxford area? And that's a question I put to both our friends, Craig and Steph.